In this Michael Jackson documentary, Off the Wall Era, you will understand the true business of Michael Jackson during this era. You may think this era began in 1978 to 1981, which is largely incorrect, as it all truly began in 1977, as Michael Jackson made a business proposition that would make any 18-year-old stand still like a scarecrow, as Michael Jackson took his opportunity. While working on The Wiz in Los Angeles, he pitched his idea to Quincy Jones to produce his first solo album on CBS Epic Records. You can assume that Michael Jackson meant business. So, for Michael Jackson, he already put himself in a position of leverage. Cast your mind back to June 1975. The Jacksons signed to Epic CBS a deal that meant they would be able to finally make money from record sales. Michael Jackson also signed an exclusive writer's contract on this same day as well. What this meant for Michael Jackson is a baseline of receiving 20% royalty rate. The Jacksons got paid $750,000. But after deductions like his father getting his management fee, legal fees, and his brothers excluding Jermaine getting their share, Michael was left with between $100,000 to $120,000. This came at a cost as much as they wanted. The creative control phasing the group constraint. Epic didn't give them complete autonomy right away. For their 1976 debut and 1977 follow-up, Epic assigned them to Philadelphia international soul architects Gamble and Huff. The contract dictated that they could step up to complete artistic control once they proved their commercial viability under outside guidance. The breakthrough. That contractual clause was triggered in 1978 with the release of their Destiny album, which the brothers wrote, arranged, and produced entirely on their own terms. The Wiz and the Quincy Jones Resistance, the filming window, pre-production and rehearsals for the Wiz movie musical began in New York City in July 1977. Michael was 18 years old, turning 19 during production in late August. The label pushback. Epic Records executives actively tried to prevent Michael from hiring Quincy Jones to produce his adult solo breakout. Label executives officially wanted Maurice White from the group Earth, Wind and Fire. They explicitly stated that Quincy Jones was too jazz-oriented and lacked the commercial pop instincts required for a mainstream chart topper. The legal overrule. Michael utilized the exact veto power built into his individual solo rider from the 1975 Epic package to overrule the label's corporate pushback, demanding Quincy Jones be locked into the project. But that's not all, because the transformation of Michael Jackson from a child star into a global business entity was not an accident of talent. It was a calculated maneuver in corporate maneuvering and market repositioning in 1977. While the world saw Michael filming The Wiz in New York City, Michael was conducting a quiet audit of his own career. He was 18 years old, technically an adult, yet still tethered to the family brand legacy of the Jackson 5 and the Jacksons. The Wiz provided the perfect cover for a strategic pivot. It was here that he met Quincy Jones. However, what you are not aware of is that the build-up to this collaboration was inevitable. It was inevitable because before 1978, the groundwork was being laid. Michael was signed to Epic Records, a subsidiary of CBS, under a contract that required a sophisticated understanding of royalty structures and distribution networks. This was an era where the average musician was often a victim of predatory accounting, but Michael began to demand a seat at the table. He was transitioning from a purely creative role into a stakeholder. The budget for what would become Off the Wall was a significant investment by CBS. Production costs in the late 70s were rising due to the complexity of multi-track recording and the demand for high-fidelity masters. Michael and Quincy were entering the studio with a mandate to create a product with zero defects that could penetrate multiple demographic markets simultaneously. The precise recording budget allocated by CBS/Epic Records to make the Off the Wall album was between $200,000 and $250,000. When Off the Wall was released in August 1979, the financial shockwaves were immediate. The album didn't just sell, it dominated the market share. Its lead single, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, wasn't just a hit, it was a high-yield asset. By the end of 1979, the album was moving millions of units. To put this in perspective, by 1980, the album had sold over 6 million copies in the United States alone. At a retail price of approximately $7.98 to $8.98 per LP in 1980, the gross revenue generated was staggering. We are talking about an initial domestic gross exceeding $50 million within the first year of release. But globally, the album generated an estimated $70 million to $90 million in gross global retail revenue during this initial 2-year window. Out of these gross earnings, Michael Jackson's personal payout skyrocketed when he used his immense leverage in 1980 to secure a historic contract renegotiation with Epic Records. He demanded the highest royalty rate in the music industry at 37% of wholesale album profit, roughly $2 per album sold, pocketing a staggering personal windfall of nearly $16 million to $20 million in direct artist royalties before ever writing a single note for Thriller, therefore establishing it as the best-selling album by a black solo artist at that point in music history. For his entire adult solo career, Michael Jackson was explicitly signed to BMI, Broadcast Music Incorporated. He officially aligned with BMI in 1976 during the transition away from Motown. BMI has represented his songwriting catalog uninterruptedly ever since. This means when off-the-wall tracks like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough were played on the radio, BMI was the specific entity tracking and collecting his public performance royalties. This meant Michael Jackson fully owned the publishing rights to the specific songs he wrote by himself for the Off the Wall album. These were Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Workin' Day and Night, and Get on the Floor, co-written with Louis Johnson. For the other tracks on the album, the publishing rights belonged to the respective outside songwriters hired by Quincy Jones. For example, Rod Temperton owned the publishing for Rock With You and Off the Wall. Paul McCartney owned Girlfriend, and Stevie Wonder owned I Can't Help It. Michael only collected performer and mechanical royalties on those specific tracks. You can trace the exact linear evolution of Michael's writing credits between 1976 and 1981. This time frame represents the era he transitioned from a silent singer to a fully credited mastermind. The Jacksons' era, 1976 to 1981, during their first 2 epic albums, their contract strictly phased them in their creativity. By the age of 17, the first credits came. On the Jacksons' album, in 1976, Blues Away, written solely by Michael Jackson. This is an essential historic milestone for Michael, as it is officially the first song he ever wrote and published in his career. So on Goin' Places album, 1977, during this album, the label still controlled most of the track list, but Michael and his brothers forced their way onto 2 credits. Different Kind of Lady, co-written by Michael and his brothers. Do What You Wanna, co-written by Michael and his brothers. So on the Destiny album, in 1978, this is where the 1975 Creative Control Clause fully kicks in. The brothers took complete control of the studio. Shake Your Body, Down to the Ground, co-written by Michael and Randy Jackson. It became a massive top 10 hit and proved to Epic Records that Michael's songwriting could sell millions. That's What You Get for Being Polite, co-written by Michael and Randy Jackson. All Night Dancin', co-written by Michael and Randy Jackson. Bless His Soul, co-written by Michael and all of his brothers. Destiny, the title track, co-written by Michael and all of his brothers. Therefore, on Triumph album, in 1980, fresh off the massive success of Off the Wall, Michael was now the dominant creative force in the family. This Place Hotel, originally titled Heartbreak Hotel, written and arranged solely by Michael Jackson. This track is a key point because its dark, cinematic story about paranoia directly served as the thematic precursor blueprint for the groundbreaking music video for Billie Jean. Then came the song Can You Feel It, co-written by Michael and Jackie Jackson. There were songs written for other artists between 1976 to 1981. During this period, for a few select industry allies. Muscles, for Diana Ross, even though it was released in 1982, Michael actually wrote and produced this song for his mentor, Diana Ross. In late 1981, right at the end of Off the Wall era, it became a massive top 10 hit. He also wrote Nighttime Lover for one of his older sisters, LaToya Jackson, written and produced in 1980 for her self-titled debut solo album. Michael also sang prominent background vocals on the track. You're Good for Me / Don't Let a Woman, unreleased / gave away during the late 70s. Michael actively wrote a series of demos intended for outside artists under the radar, but ultimately shelved them as he pivoted toward his own solo work. But the real story of the rise is found in the diversification of the income streams. Michael was earning a songwriter's royalty on key tracks, which meant he was capturing a larger percentage of the mechanicals, the statutory rate paid for every unit sold. For Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Working Day and Night, Michael was the sole writer. This meant he wasn't splitting that specific revenue with a band or a co-writer. He was becoming a vertically integrated creator. This meant he was grossing over $7.5 million globally. Then came the 1979 Destiny Tour. Michael Jackson took a modest personal performance cut between $250,000 to $350,000 due to heavy overheads and equal family splits. However, the tour acted as a marketing catalyst, driving his total 1979 career earnings. By 1980, the album had made history as the first by a solo artist to have 4 top 10 hits. The Off the Wall. Then came the Triumph Tour in 1981, which further solidified his liquidity. The Triumph Tour grossed an estimated $5.5 million across 36 cities. From that tour, Michael earned up to again $200,000 to $300,000. Michael was now operating with a level of capital that allowed him to begin eyeing the ultimate prize in the music business: ownership of the underlying copyrights and publishing. As 1981 came to a close, Michael Jackson was no longer just a singer on a payroll. He was a multi-million-dollar enterprise with a proven track record of 10 million albums sold worldwide for a single project, setting the stage for the most aggressive expansion in entertainment history. Between 1976 and 1981, Michael Jackson's songwriting catalog, solidified by signing with BMI in 1979 and forming Midjack in 1980, generated an estimated $5.5 million to $7.5 million USD in publishing royalties. Writing hits like Shake Your Body and Don't Stop Till You Get Enough ensured he retained 100% of his lucrative publishing income. This early experience running Midjack is exactly what taught Michael the immense power of music publishing. This foundational knowledge directly led to his famous 1985 purchase of the ATV music catalog, which contained most of the Beatles' songs, for $47.5 million. But this purchase was during the Thriller era, so you can imagine that there were enormous amount of challenges Michael Jackson went through, such as the connection with Quincy Jones. It was a divine blessing, as the role he was casted for as the Scarecrow for The Wiz was Motown affiliated. Because, as you know, Michael Jackson and his brothers had famously severed ties with Motown Records to sign with Epic CBS in 1975. However, the movie version of The Wiz was being produced as a joint venture between Universal Pictures and Motown Productions. The biggest hurdle was the film's director, Sidney Lumet. He strongly opposed casting Michael Jackson. Sidney Lumet flatly told producer Rob Cohen, "Michael Jackson's a Vegas act. The Jackson 5's a Vegas act." Sidney Lumet viewed Michael as a polished, manufactured, variety show singer rather than a raw, cinematic actor, especially with potential at such a young age. Refusing to back down, Rob Cohen personally funded a flight to bring an 18-year-old Michael Jackson out to New York City for a face-to-face meeting with Sidney Lumet and the film's newly hired musical director, Quincy Jones. During the meeting, Michael did a dramatic reading and run-through of the Scarecrow's material. His performance completely stunned Sidney Lumet. The director was instantly disarmed by Michael's extreme vulnerability and childlike sweetness. Sidney Lumet famously turned to Rob Cohen right after the audition and exulted, "That boy is so sweet. He's so pure. I want him as the Scarecrow." Quincy Jones was equally impressed. The very final barrier was Michael's father and manager, Joe Jackson. Joe was deeply unsupportive of the project because it represented Michael taking an independent, individual acting job that physically and financially separated him from his brother's group schedule. To bypass Joe's complaints and lock Michael in, Rob Cohen officially offered a $100,000 salary guarantee directly for Michael's participation. Michael and his sister LaToya moved entirely out of the family's Los Angeles home and into a private apartment in Manhattan for the duration of the grueling shoot. This was his very first taste of true personal independence. The other challenge is the creativity, knowing he is on a 20% royalty rate. And although he was only 16 years old, receiving $100,000 to $120,000 from signing, he had a lot of ideas but couldn't pursue them just yet. But by the time he was 18 years old, he got his first official songwriting credit for Blues Away, which was released on the Jacksons' self-titled debut album with Epic Records on November 27, 1976. So Michael's work ethic is understandable, as the timeline to the Off the Wall album officially began on December 4, 1978, and took place over a 6-month window, officially wrapping up on June 3, 1979, just 2 months before the album hit record stores. Then came the challenge of asking Quincy Jones to produce his first solo album as an adult. Pitching your ideas to work on something else seems good in theory, but the practicality of asking someone like Quincy Jones, especially during working on a different project, you never know if they have other commitments and if time schedules would align. As even before, Michael could work on his solo project, he had to commit himself to finishing off the Destiny album with his brothers, as he had a contractual obligation with Epic CBS. Once he was finished, he got straight into work for his solo project, with the help of Janet and Randy working on the demos from home. The other challenge is the recording of multiple projects, solo and with his brothers, and with 2 different budgets. Epic Records allocated exactly $200,000 to $250,000 for the recording and production of Off the Wall. Epic Records allocated a significantly higher recording budget of $350,000 to $400,000 to produce the Jacksons' breakthrough self-produced album, Destiny. Between 1978 and 1981, Michael Jackson's solo album Off the Wall sold 5 to 6 million copies globally, while the Jacksons' Destiny moved 2 to 3 million copies. Together, they generated $56 to $75 million in retail revenue. From these projects and concurrent tours, Michael Jackson personally amassed $18 million in gross earnings during this exact 3-year calendar window, from sales alone and live performances, which meant Michael Jackson's net earnings reached an estimated $10 to $15 million. This total factors in solo and group album sales, singles, tours, TV appearances, and film roles. It accounts for separate songwriting royalties, splits with his brothers, and heavy deductions for management fees, production costs, and high federal income taxes. So you can imagine the new challenge of becoming a millionaire at the age of 23. Now cast your mind back to when Michael Jackson was receiving $1 to $5 weekly allowance when at Motown. Despite being a child star, he was spending it on candy and giving it out. Now, at 23, he is a millionaire. This goes to show you that these challenges he learned from to create many turning points at such a young age. The first turning point was signing to Epic CBS Records. The deal was much more better for Michael Jackson from a creative and financial perspective, moving from a 2.8% unrecoupable contract to a 20% royalty rate with his brothers the Jacksons. But as a solo artist, he signed a 10% to 15% royalty rate. So this meant the next turning point was also signing to BMI. Between 1976 and 1981, Michael Jackson's total personal take-home earnings from the songs he wrote, co-produced, and performed came to approximately up to $15.5 million. Another turning point is how Michael Jackson got the role for the Scarecrow. This is purely the power of networking. As you know, Sidney Lumet didn't want Michael, but Rob Cohen insisted. Rob Cohen's decision literally paid off, because you can win when you let your IP branding naturally work in your favor. However, Michael still had to audition. This led to another turning point, which was having independence and living in Manhattan, New York. Although he was living with his sister LaToya, he was able to go to Studio 54, located at 254 West 54th Street, in Midtown Manhattan, New York City, which is one of the many inspirations for what ended up becoming Off the Wall album. So this means the other turning point was pitching his idea to Quincy Jones. He has already seen how he works in the music studio. Therefore, it was deemed to be a great partnership. This led to securing £250,000 for the Off the Wall album budget from Epic. Therefore, the next turning point is the demo and recording process. As Michael already recorded demos at home with younger siblings, Randy on the percussion/drums, Janet clinking glass soda bottles and shaking shakers, while Michael recorded multi-track vocal arrangements on a home tape deck. He hummed the brass lines, bass lines, and string sections into the microphone to build a full sonic map of the tracks. This demo became a blueprint for Michael. The next major turning point was how Michael Jackson internalized the economics of how the music industry works for his solo career, especially having written and produced 3 out of the 10 songs on Off the Wall, as well as Quincy Jones receiving a 10% royalty rate per retail sale. So, the success of the album led to Michael negotiating and agreeing to 37% wholesale instead of the 10% to 15% retail royalty rate. All of these turning points made Michael Jackson not only a multi-millionaire, it proved that he is business savvy enough to get his entertainment attorneys to make necessary changes to his contract with Epic for his solo career. This ultimately means that throughout all these turning points, Michael Jackson was extremely creatively strategic. The first important strategy was the solo contract that Michael Jackson signed with Epic CBS alongside the group contract. You may think that it was the executive at the time, Ron Alexenberg's idea, but Michael and Joe Jackson were the brainchild behind this strategy, negotiating better terms for creative control and retail royalty rate. Benefits all those involved. The next pivotal strategy was getting a deal done with BMI. This allowed Michael Jackson to be at ease to get straight to work at 17 years old. He got his first writing credits for the song Blues Away and co-wrote Style of Life with his brother Tito on the Jacksons' self-titled debut album with Epic Records. By the time the album was released on November 5, 1976, he was 18 years old. This now leads to a very smart strategy for Michael Jackson, and that was to remain as a professional and play the long game for his creative vision. As between 1976 and 1977, his father Joe Jackson did something unheard of, even for a black family of siblings. It was the birth of the variety show titled The Jacksons, which featured an on-the-wall segment on the TV network CBS. The next strategy for Michael was to accept the call from Rob Cohen and do the audition for the Scarecrow for the Wiz movie. During mid-1977, the strategy within this was also convincing his father Joe Jackson that this would actually benefit the Jacksons. As you saw, the Wiz movie was released on October 24, 1978, and the Destiny album was released on December 17, 1978. This meant that Michael Jackson and his family could win. But there was yet another strategy Michael Jackson took. That was move to Manhattan, New York, from the summer of 1977. He also attended Studio 54 regularly, but he needed to be in New York to film The Wiz. He also had to work on the official soundtrack. This is where he saw Quincy Jones working as a music producer, and this is where he gets the idea to hire Quincy Jones as his producer for his solo album. Once Michael wrapped up the filming of The Wiz, he was fortunate that the CBS HQ was in Manhattan. So he pitched his idea, and after deliberations, Michael got what he wanted, but the catch was the budget for the solo album was $250,000. So hiring Quincy Jones is fine. Just don't exceed the budget. Otherwise, it comes out of your own pocket. As you can imagine, for this strategy to work, Michael had to put in serious work. Now that Michael secured the budget and secured Quincy Jones to produce his solo album, he held his discipline and kept to his promise to his father/manager Joe Jackson to work on the Destiny album for the Jacksons. The strategy is simple. Show the executives that you and your brothers can be creative yet also be financially prudent and make profit. The production percent and songwriting goes to the Jacksons plus the 20% retail sales. Michael and his brothers completed the Destiny album in a 2-month window. Whether this work ethic by Michael was strategic or simply a byproduct of working your brothers and knowing your manager/dad is Joe Jackson, it allowed Michael Jackson time to be very strategic with the $250,000 budget given for his solo album, and that was to record up 13 demos at the family estate, Havenhurst Avenue, Encino, California, in a private home studio, saving money. Therefore, the next strategy, Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones chose 3 of the songs from the 13 demos he recorded. Both agreed that the song lead single should be Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, written by Michael Jackson. But the deeper strategy is Michael learning that Quincy Jones took a 10% royalty rate. Then comes the Destiny Tour. This was one of the smartest strategies because the official audit tracking records from Epic/CBS and the Recording Industry Association of America, RIA, confirmed that the Destiny Tour significantly boosted the sales of Destiny and Off the Wall. Destiny officially became the group's very first certified million-selling platinum album in the United States, and global sales passed 4 million copies. Off the Wall achieved the unheard-of feat of selling over 3 million copies in the United States alone before 1979 even concluded. This next strategic shift Michael made was hiring John Branca as his entertainment attorney in early 1980. He was hired as a legal powerhouse to handle contract negotiations with CBS Records and Warner's music publishing division shortly after the release of Off the Wall. John Branca acted as the middleman to get business for Mr. Michael Jackson. This led to Michael creating Mijak Music Publishing and securing a historic 37% wholesale royalty rate with Epic CBS. But that's not all. Michael clearly did what any great business and family man would do, and that took on the liabilities and cleared the debts against the estate. By late 1981, not only was all the debts cleared, but it gave Michael Jackson the right for total operational control to start the massive rebuild. Another strategy that should not be overlooked is where the name Off the Wall came from. It literally came from the On the Wall segment from the Jacksons' variety show. Therefore, his inspirations come from the external and internal reality of what he experiences. So it is very clear Michael Jackson learned a lot. Not just creatively, but he learned the art of the music business. And he learned very quickly. The lessons are simple. You have to be able to understand your own behavior to places, people, and your own skills and ability to learn to grow and adapt to any given situation. For example, Michael Jackson learned how to not only sing, but he learned how to write and produce. In addition, he learned how to network and develop a great business mind to grow his personal net worth and his family's IP. The other lesson is understanding how power dynamics work. For example, Michael Jackson knew the power of his talents, but he also knew how to study from those around him. Whether it be his father, who was his manager, or what other people went through in the entertainment industry. He found a way to literally study the economics of how the music industry works, and remain disciplined and implemented when necessary. The next major lesson is how to manage your money and your investments. What Michael Jackson did was very strategic. He learned every aspect possible from Sammy Davis Jr., Little Richard, James Brown, Bob Fosse, Fred Astaire, etc., not just there artistically. He learned a financial lesson on how to audit every aspect of your earnings, which is why he hired an entertainment attorney. This made him a multi-millionaire in his early 20s. Another fundamental lesson is your decision-making, knowing when to make your move and how to handle decision-making outside of your control. For example, Michael Jackson didn't engineer the move to Epic CBS. His dad did, yet he decided to remain professional. That landed him a television spot with his siblings. That led to him being casted for The Wiz. But he also decided to let the On the Wall segment inspire him for his solo album. Then comes the final lessons of identity and ambition. When you have the ambition to be the best, you have to work smart and work hard. You have to make it part of your identity. For example, notice how Michael Jackson, ambition wasn't just to be the best creatively, as he could have still chose Maurice White, but he chose Quincy Jones because of his high ambition and in the process learnt the power of ownership. So, as you know, the off-the-wall era has been quite a journey for Michael Jackson. He turned his skill into an asset and obtained ownership of his intellectual property. Just imagine the emotional roller coaster. It's not just the fact that he wanted to get his vision out there, but he wanted to take real ownership of his brand. It wasn't easy, but in the process, it became a multi-millionaire and reclaimed his home. Therefore, the overall principle is that you must understand what your talents are, hone your skills, and leverage them to the point they become assets. So, it gets to the point where you also learn asset management skills and money management skills, knowing that ownership is the overall goal. Develop your communication skills and know when and how to invest your time, money, and assets. It's time for you to stop being passive and live your life and business off the wall.